Suzanne Abernathy, professional organizer here once again from my highly technical bedroom home office. And if you're following me at all, you know that I am selling my condo and hitting the road. And so I'm actually sitting here in my sister's house. She's been generous enough to let me stay in her spare bedroom, which is gorgeous. So I'm doing my weekly video training from here. So got my lap, and it's my brand new MacBook Air, which I'm really excited about, propped up on two pillows on the bed. So I'm sure you were dying to know that. So anyway, tonight I'm going to be talking about document management. I got this really great question from somebody on Facebook, and she asked, I really need help with organizing my home office area, really need help managing my documents and my filing systems, and it's just the paper. And this is probably one of the number one questions I get from everybody is, how do I tame the paper monster? How do I get so much paper? It's amazing to me that in 2014 we still have so much paper. Even I get so much paper, it's ridiculous, and I go paperless on everything, and I still manage to get stuff in my mailbox. Kind of amazing. So what do we do with this paper? How do we handle it? How do we not let it get out of control and turn into this big beast of a thing? So I've got some ideas and some tips for you. So the first thing is, your first kind of thing you can do is get rid of what you don't need. And that sounds really obvious, but it's a huge first step. So in my house, right by the mailbox, we actually have a recycle bin. So the first thing you do is, it's a community mailbox, and so you pull out your mail, and like the ads and the junk, it just goes straight into the recycle bin. Like, that's it. Doesn't even make it 2 inches from the mailbox. So in your house, I would suggest doing a similar thing in your mailbox. If you bring it home, if you've got a place where you tend to, everybody has a place where they tend to kind of dump things, and so wherever that place is, set up a basket or a bin or a trash can or something, and just instantly everything that doesn't belong goes in there. The other thing I used to do is, I actually had a shred basket that would sit on top of my shredder, and so depending on how paranoid you are, I don't know, somewhere along the line I heard something about credit card statements, or not statements, but those offers, and how you shouldn't just throw them away. I don't really know, but I would put them in the shred basket. So whatever your comfort level is, everybody's different. Whether you want to put them in a shred basket, or whether you want to put them in a recycle bin or the trash or whatever, just get rid of that stuff ASAP. Like, that's your first step. That's your first line of defense against paper, is get rid of the junk right away before you even take 2 more steps. So that's the first step. Now, step 2 is, what do you do with the real stuff? The bills, the letters, all that stuff. And the first thing I do is have a place where they can live until you're ready to deal with them. Because, you're coming home from work, you just picked up the kids, you grabbed the mail, you're not going to sit there and do your paperwork right then. Nobody's going to. It's not going to happen. So I'm a big basket fan. I love baskets because they're pretty, and they're unique, and they have personality, and but whatever floats your boat, a bin, a basket, an inbox, the desk, whatever, find a spot where those papers will be safe, meaning not getting mixed up with the dog toys or the homework or whatever, the new mail that needs to be addressed. Have a place for that. I call it an inbox, or a dump zone, or a crash zone, or a basket, whatever. So put them there. That's step 2. Step 1, get rid of the unnecessary stuff. Step 2, take the real mail and put it in the inbox. I'm just going to call it inbox for now. So it's going to live there until you're ready to deal with it. That could be that day. It could be sometime during the week. Every day you're tossing your stuff in there. You're also tossing any other kind of paperwork you get. Kids' homeworks, kids' permission slips, your own stuff you bring home from work, whatever, invitations you get. It all goes in there, and this is going to be the staging area until you can deal with it. So then you need to carve out some time. Now, this only works, disclaimer, this only works if you actually deal with it. I've had many clients that put things in the active basket, and they stay there forever. And I go back and I go, oh yeah, that's in the active basket. I'm like, no. You're supposed to do things with that. It doesn't just, like, it's not a filing system. It's just a temporary landing place until you can sit down and process that paperwork. So, disclaimer. So anyway, you are a good organized person and you got your time carved out to sit down and do your paperwork. So you open your bills, you open your letters, whatever. The next step is to have a system for in process stuff that you're working on right now. So maybe you've got bills that you need to wait till you get paid to actually write the check, or maybe you've got invitations that are you need to put in a tickler file, so that you can find them, or like I had like lab slips that I needed to be able to find, or future events, plane tickets, music tickets, whatever you've got that you can't just handle right now. It's got to kind of go through your process. You need a system to keep track of that stuff. And so I've done different things with different clients. One thing that really seems to work is a series of trays that are labeled, especially with clients with children. Each child gets one tray and you put their name on it. So the permission slips and the whatever go in each child's slot, and then, each husband and wife or whoever, all the adults in the house also get one. So, whatever you have going on will go in that slot. Now, that may not be a good model for you. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you live alone. So I don't need like people's on the tray. I don't need a tray that says Suzanne. I mean, it's just going to be me. So for me, I had like a spot for bills, and I actually had one of those upright sorters. It's like a piece of plastic, and they've got little pieces of plastic that go like this, and the paper goes like in between them. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyway, so I would do that, and I would put them up there, and I would take little Post-it notes, and I would label like the date and whatever, and I would stick it in a way upside down so that I could see them going across the top, and I just like stick it on the side of my desk. And, oh yeah, there's the I'm taking this trip. Okay, here's the itinerary for that trip. It's right there where I need it. So it kind of doesn't really matter how you do it, but the important thing is that it's all in your mind. The important thing is you set aside the inbox, and then you set aside the flow, which is, the process, how you're going to deal with these things. And another little disclaimer too is people like to put everything in the active process. Like, even I know people that like, oh, I think this is interesting. I should probably read this someday because, no. Okay, here's the thing. Active stuff means bad things will happen if you don't handle this. The electricity will get turned off, doctor's appointments, kids' permission slips. Bad things will happen if you ignore this. This is active. This is not newspaper clippings. This is not old invitations that you want to keep for memorabilia. This is not, prospectus that you should read, but really whoever does, and that kind of stuff. If you want that kind of stuff, it can go in a separate area. I always had a basket for like interesting stuff that I'll get to when I can, and I did, and I would dump it out and find something and read it. That was interesting. So that's kind of the distinction for that. So you've got your get rid of the unnecessary stuff. You've got your inbox where they live until you can deal with them. You've got your process where you keep track of what you're working on. And then you have your end result, which is going to be either file or toss or send out. If you're paying a bill and you put the check and you need to mail it out, that's a send out. If you're signing a permission slip, that's got to go out. Everything else can either be shredded or recycled or filed. So, as we go on, we're getting more and more digital, so we're having less and less files, but we still have files. I even still have files, for client contracts and for taxes, and there's still things that you kind of need to keep paper copies of. So, again, there's different ways of filing. You can have a traditional filing cabinet, and I just use the hanging folders for the general broad categories. Like I have one for the car, and I have one for the house, and I have one for my medical stuff, and I have one for my business, and I have one, just different things. And so in those hanging folders, I'm going to have file folders, and the file folders are each going to be labeled with, say it's medical. I'm going to have one for vision. I'm going to have one for dental. I'll have one for, this, that, or the other. All the different little like lab results or prescriptions or, so it's going to be within that medical thing. With the car, it might be service records, it might be DMV, it might be, a traffic ticket records or whatever. With home, it might be receipts for major purchases, it might be service like heating and air conditioning service, or whatever information, whatever service you have done on your home. So that's kind of some of the categories that you might file, and some of those things you do need to keep records of. So you go ahead and file those. And For bills, I was actually just talking to someone tonight, and there's a couple different ways you can do bills. I go completely paperless on my bills, and so what I do is I actually have a spreadsheet, and I have all the months across the top, and I have the bills down the side in date order of when they're due. So for me, that works because I know in the first, like those first ones, ooh, I better pay those quick, right? So I have those in date order of when they're due. I have the month across the top, and what I do is each month, I just as I pay each bill online, I populate the corresponding cell with how much I paid. So this kind of has a couple of different functions. I know if the cell is populated, then I pay the bill. So I can look down and say, okay, I paid that. Oh, I got to pay that one because that one's empty. And I'll put the number in. The other thing this does for me is automatically gives me a record of how much I'm paying. So if I want to go back and look at my energy bill, for example, I can see across the months, I go, oh, I paid a lot that month, and I paid a little that month, and it's just great visual that goes right across the screen. And you can get a good idea of your usage and your bills, and it's great because once if one of them spikes all of a sudden, it's a red flag. You can be like, oh, I only paid $39.99 for the last 6 months, and now you're charging me $59.99. Like, what's going on? And you call them. So it's a really good way of keeping track and staying aware of everything that you're paying. That's if you're online with paper. If you do the paper thing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's a couple different ways. I used to actually make a folder for each bill. So the phone bill, the energy bill, whatever. I had a separate folder for each. And now that I've gone online and I'm kind of rethinking it, I actually think that that's a little bit harder than another thing I suggest to some people is if you just make a folder for each month, then once you pay the bill for the month, you put it in that folder for like August. And then, when September comes around, as you're paying your September bills, you put them in the September folder, and you kind of just have this rolling system. And then, January comes around, you take all the old bills out, shred them, and start putting in the new ones, and you kind of just roll with it. So I actually, in retrospect, think that's probably an easier system, especially if you're not inclined to organize the tedium like I am. I kind of enjoy it a little too much. So, but you can go either way. And the important thing is do something that works for you. Do something that works for your brain, that you can wrap your brain around and be comfortable with. And most importantly, find what you need when you need it, because that's why we keep all this stuff anyway, right? So that's kind of document management. That's the flow. And then the next step is, of course, the out. We've got the in. Now we need the out. So what I do is I actually have a spot next to the door where I would leave typically to, get in my car and go. And I call it grab and go. It's my grab and go system. And I'll typically set up a basket, or even more than that, I would set up like one of those reusable shopping bags. I have a bunch of those, and I'll just whatever I need, I'll just like throw it in there. If I have errands I need to run or whatever, I'll throw it in the basket or the bag and sit it right by the door. That way, when I'm going out the door, I grab the bag out to go. It's in the car, it's with me, and I can see everything I need to do. Drop the mail in the mail, all the other stuff. If I need to return paperwork or whatever. So that's kind of the flow. It kind of, get rid of the excess paperwork, have your inbox, have your process, handle your paperwork, and then have your out for things that need to be mailed or turned back or sent out somewhere. And then you have your filing system for things that need to be kept. And then you've got your recycle and shred for things that you're done with and you can get rid of. So I hope that made some sense. I'm just going to take a look at my notes here and see if I'm missing anything. I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to do tonight. I hope that kind of helped you wrap your brain around the documents, and really it's not so much how you do it, it's really just staying on top of it. And I know that's really hard if you don't like doing something. I mean, shoot, I have things I don't like doing, and I procrastinate just as much as anybody else. So but if you can, either there's some way, like if you can get a friend involved and like have a clean it up day, maybe like every other Saturday she comes over and helps you with yours, and then maybe the next time you go over and help her with hers, or turn it into like a fun thing like coffee or wine or ice cream or pizza or something, and just try to turn it into like a fun thing and really set those times aside. And if you're really struggling with doing it on your own, get an accountability partner, get a girlfriend or somebody who can do it with you, who can really keep you on track. I know for me, if I have somebody who's expecting me, I will keep that appointment for their sake. and I won't necessarily do it for myself. So, and I think we all kind of fall into that at some, in some ways. So, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to post a comment here or on Facebook. You can find me at Suzanne Abernathy, SuzanneAbernathy on Facebook, or SuzanneAbernathy.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, please let me know, and hope you have a fabulous week, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.